I hope you are having a beautiful day. We are talking about how to feel better, how to feel happier, how to bring more joy and content and all of those positive vibration feelings to your life. I'm giving you today 3 strategies that I implement on a daily basis that have completely changed the way that I feel every single day. I mean, for the most part, I'm in a great mood all the time, and this has been something that I've practiced, and I want to share with you how I've done that over the last couple years and brought myself from a place of overwhelm and constant feeling stressed out and anxiety to a place where I feel really good and I feel content and I have a good attitude going into the day, because these are strategies that we're not necessarily taught, and we often are like, well, how can I just feel better? I don't want to feel so overwhelmed and like everything is so hard all the time. So if you are looking for some strategies to feel better right now, you are in the right place. My name is Tessa Shears. I'm a life coach, so we're going to jump right into it. So one of the most important things is that you know that it wasn't always this way for me. If we rewind back to, I think it was probably early 2015, I was struggling with a lot of anxiety. I had come out of a 3-year relationship that was really emotional. It was, emotionally challenging to deal with. There was a lot of name calling. There was just a lot of turmoil, and there's a lot going on in my life, and it was exhausting. I mean, it was emotionally stressful. I was overwhelmed all the time, and I found that I was feeling more and more anxious and dread, and it got to the point where I had trouble leaving the house. I didn't want to go out and socially interact, and this was affecting my quality of life. And I noticed that the predominant feelings that I was feeling every day were overwhelm and anxiety and stress, and this wasn't how I wanted to be living. So I knew there was something that I had to do to make a change. And I remember it was probably, summer of 2015. And I remember sitting on the couch in my living room with my mom, and we had decided that it was time for me to get some help. And I had reached out to the intake workers that worked at, the local hospital as part of their cognitive behavioral therapy program. And I remember doing that intake phone call, sitting there with my mom, and she was holding my hand, and I was crying because the questions that they ask you on those intakes in order to get into those anxiety depression programs, they're really personal. They're things like, do you have an appetite? Do you have the energy? Do you care about your social life? Have you thought about hurting yourself? And I just remember crying and being so humiliated and just feeling terrible and knowing that there had to be another solution to this. So long story short, I did end up getting into that cognitive behavioral therapy program, which was the start of me learning about my brain and how my thinking really does contribute to the emotions I feel on a daily basis. And so there's so much of my life that I can really divide into before and after that call, that sitting on that couch holding my mom's hand, crying. There is a before and there is an after version of me, and it wasn't always perfect. And obviously it was a lot of work, but where I am now, I'm so grateful to past me for going through that and putting up with, the hard days so that I can get to the good days today. And, it was through that process that I started learning that there are all these options available to us. And it was specifically after that program, I had stumbled upon a podcast that completely opened my eyes to the whole idea that the circumstances we experience in our life are neutral. And I've talked at length about that in other videos, that they're all neutral and that we get to choose the thoughts we want to have, and that the thoughts we have on a daily basis and the beliefs we have and the stories we tell ourselves on a regular basis completely affect and influence the emotions that we feel on a daily basis. And if we want to start feeling better and start feeling happier and get out of anxiety and overwhelm, then what we need to do is start thinking about what's going on in our head. We need to bring awareness, and then we need to start changing the stories and the beliefs that are not serving us. And so this was the journey I was on, and over time I have put rock solid walls into place that have helped me keep up this fortress in which I am constantly feeding my brain and my beliefs and my spirits with things that are serving me. I am constantly fostering new thoughts and new beliefs that keep me in this state of feeling just genuinely content and peaceful and fulfilled and happy and successful, 90% of the time. And I'm totally in peace with the fact that I know that 50% of life is negative emotion and 50% is positive emotion. But if I know how those emotions are being generated, then what I can do is I can learn how to let go of the anxiety and the stress and move towards feeling better. So what I've basically come up with today is I'm going to teach you the 3 strategies that I put into place every single day that help me stay in a very positive mindset, that help me show up feeling good and positive and happy 90% of the time, and knowing that there are still days that I wake up in anxiety and overwhelm, but I don't stay there anymore. I have the strategies to help remove myself from that. So what we're talking about today, we're going to be filling our brain with positive influences so that we can take back the responsibility and control of how we feel and genuinely feel good about ourselves and feel happy on a regular basis. I mean, this is something that's available to all of us, and until I discovered these, I didn't know exactly how to access them. So number 1 is I'm going to start with a really obvious one that you've probably heard before, but it has to do with the people we surround ourselves with. Now, that's a lot easier said than done. So here's what I've noticed. There are people in our influence circle, whether that's at work or at home or in our family, that we have an easier time controlling or managing our thinking about and harder times managing our thinking about. So if you are ever one of those people that has said they're toxic or that person triggers me or they make me stressed out, what we're really meaning is that we have a harder time managing the way our brain works and the thoughts we think to keep us in the mood we want when we're around them. But some people make it really easy. So what I've started to notice, I've taken inventory over the last couple of years of what people do I have in my life that are really easy to manage my thinking around. What people make it easy to stay in a positive state and to be able to continue thinking the way I want to think. And what I've done is I've proactively spent more time around those people. Now, also, if you know me, I am a massive introvert, which basically means that I really love to stay at home. I love a good book. I love a good movie. So if you don't spend a lot of time around a wide variety of people, what I've also decided for myself is that the mentors that I allow into my life, meaning through YouTube videos or podcasts or the books I read, those are also considered people and influences in our lives that we have to take inventory of and make sure that they're helping our brains stay in a place that is, happy and positive. And ultimately that is our responsibility to stay in that place. It is never up to other people to control how we feel or how we think. However, I like to spend the majority of my time around people that I have a really easy time managing my thinking around. It is just easy and fun and happy, and there's not a lot of drama and there's not a lot of complaining. It's just always good vibes, and those are the people that I try to spend my most time around. So strategy number 1 was take inventory of the people in your life and spend more time around the people that you find make you feel the way you want to feel, that they influence, that you have an easier time being around them. So number 2 is going to be managing your screen time. So the other thing I started doing was I started going through my social media feeds, particularly Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and all of those things like that. And I started looking at them and noticing when I saw certain images pass on my screen or certain videos, where my brain went. I like to ask myself, did I go to comparison or did I go to inspiration? So then what I did was I did a social media purge in which if I saw an account or a post or a video, and if it created inspiration for me and feelings of joy and excitement, I got to keep it. But if I found myself comparing myself, like saying my abs will never look like that, I'm never going to be as thin as that, or look at how great their relationship is, or look how successful that business is. If I found my brain doing that, I gave myself permission to unfollow. So my news feeds are all things that are uplifting and inspiring, and they help me think the way I want to think. They help me believe the things I want to believe, and they don't reinforce other negative beliefs. So every quarter, every 3 months, I do a social media purge, and I unfollow or unlike the pages that don't push me to be better and help me foster the beliefs I want to have. So that is strategy number 2, is do a social media purge. Notice whether your brain is going to comparison or inspiration when you see different posts pop up in your newsfeed. The third and final influence that I use in my life on a daily basis is podcasts and books, primarily podcasts. Now, this is something that I didn't find for a long time, and I don't know why I didn't find it. Podcasts are like one of the most amazing sources of free information. You can download them on almost any app. You can listen to music and stuff on like that. But what I have found was that there are so many people putting valuable and free content out into the world right now that is uplifting, that helps you channel positive beliefs, that helps you create thoughts that have good feelings associated with them, that are just, inspirational, whether they be stories of how someone got to where they are now in their business, or how they've cultivated a loving relationship, or how they've nurtured their relationship with food, or, anything like this, inspirational quotes. Podcasts have been such an integral part because I like to use them all the time, whether I'm, doing laundry, I'm in the shower, I'm doing the dishes, I'm driving to work. Like anytime that I have any downtime, I like to fill my brain with all of these great things. So the 3 things that I use to help positively influence my brain, the way I think, and so that I feel happy on a regular basis are I spend more time around the people that I enjoy spending time around and less time around the people that cause me to feel uncomfortable and negative. The second thing is I take a look at my social media and make sure that I'm not following accounts that make me feel comparison or, any type of negative feeling. And the third one is I fill my brain with podcasts and books by people that are have beliefs in common with me, and also people that challenge my beliefs, that make me start to think outside of what I'm used to thinking, because that's when you can really start to grow. Because if you think the same thoughts over and over, the habitual thoughts that you've always thought, you'll always feel the same way. So I always like to go to sources where I know I'm being challenged and they're giving me a new thought, and maybe I have to explore it. I don't know if I agree with it, but it creates excitement in me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a run through, and I've written it down, of just yesterday, how I spent my day and examples of influences that I let into my life intentionally. So this is the schedule I had yesterday. And do know too that I've been doing this for almost 5 years now. And I've learned the best podcasts and the best books and the best things to bring into my life. And I've been able to expand it over time and include more and more of it. So if you're just starting, why not start with one 15-minute podcast? Or read an inspirational book for 10 minutes before you go to bed. Or find something to listen to or a friend to be around for an extra day every month. Just start small, and as you find what works for you and what inspires you, bring more of that into your life. So I'm gonna give you an example of what my yesterday looked like and how I incorporate these positive influences into my day. So at 6:30 a.m. I started off with a workout, and I did a spin class with an app called Peloton, and the instructors are incredibly inspirational. They often talk about, enjoying hard work and being your best and moving your life forward all the time. And so I spent 30 minutes there, really starting off my day, breathing heavy, feeling good, breaking a sweat, and hearing those inspirational words that, we are enough and we have the capacity to do great things. So 6:30 a.m. I started off with a spin. At 7:30 a.m. I was in the shower and I was listening to a podcast on curiosity and developing possibility and beliefs and stuff like that. So while I'm in the shower, I just pop up my phone and I listen to something that uplifts me. And this is how I start my day every day. Whether I'm, blow drying my hair, doing my makeup, I'm in the shower, I have something going that stimulates my brain to start thinking in a way that makes me feel good and sets my whole day up for success. 8:45 a.m. yesterday, I was driving to an appointment and I was listening to a podcast on how to think about all of the results you have in your life right now, whether it's you're working on them or you've already accomplished them. So this is my third thing now. I'm on my second podcast. I'm filling my brain on the drive, thinking about these new concepts of how to view the results I have. Then at 11 a.m. when I was home from the appointment, I watched 20 minutes of a coaching call as part of the program I'm in with my business coach. And what that really helps me do is practice my beliefs, hear other people's stories, and explore different ways of looking at the same problems that we all experience because someone else is experiencing them. So I spent 20 minutes at 11 a.m. and then at 11:30 a.m. I spent time practicing my thinking intentionally through writing. And how this shows up for me sometimes is when I'm writing my Monday morning newsletters. When I'm writing these newsletters, I get to practice getting my thoughts and my experiences onto paper. And this just 20 minutes allows me to really cement in the thoughts I want to be thinking and the beliefs I want to have. And then at 4:30 later that day, I read for 20 minutes. I'm reading Grit by Angela Duckworth right now, all about how to how people that really stay with things a long time, have a commitment and focus, how they get things done. So I read for 20 minutes and then fell asleep while I was having a nap. And then the last thing is at 9 p.m. that night, I was with my husband and I was practicing being engaged and having present conversation about, how our day went and what we're doing with our businesses. So I used a whole bunch of things in there. I had my social media accounts were filled with positive things. I listened to plenty of podcasts throughout the day. I had meaningful conversations with my husband at the end of the day. And these are all examples of how I integrated that. And it took me, I added up all the time that I spent. And yesterday alone, I spent 180 minutes. So that's 3 hours of having influences filtered into my brain that are really helping me stay in a positive place, create good feelings, feel joy and content, and stay inspired and persistent and deliberate. And I'm creating all of that on purpose. And that's why I feel a lot of the time I'm able to show up, because if we rewind back to early 2015, everything was, there was a lot of negative influences. Everything was very heavy. My social media was focused on, accounts of everything I wasn't feeling like I was. And I had no way of challenging my beliefs to make me better. So by bringing all of these influences in, it has brought me to a place where I would say that, 80 to 90% of the time I'm in a positive state. And this has been such a transformational thing. Because of that, I've been able to bring in a successful business and a happy marriage and all of these great things into my life that I've attracted in because of the energy that I've put out. So I hope that's really helped you, and I hope that you can use one of these 3 tips, and I'd love to hear it if you drop it below in the comments. Which of these 3 tips that you end up using to help influence your thoughts? And I would love to hear in the comments below. Don't forget to leave that. And of course, if this is something that is inspiring to you and you know that there is the option out there to feel better on a regular basis and not feel overwhelmed and anxious and stressed out all the time, and you know that there is something more waiting for you, reach out to me directly. I'd love to set up a 60-minute consultation with you about working together one-on-one to make that happen for you, as with me as your coach. I would love that opportunity. So I hope that you have a wonderful week and you start implementing these strategies on how to feel better in your life, because it's totally possible, and you just have to go into action with the strategies we talked about today. Have a beautiful, beautiful week, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.